Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. This is a sort of in-progress report from Buckeye Game Fest 2019 held in Columbus, Ohio. So let me show you what we've been doing so far. I am consistently having issues with OBS here. So this is the game that I am playing. This is OCS Baltic GAAP. This is the initial setup. I don't think I got any pictures of it today. I am one of two Soviet players in Baltic GAAP. So far, it's really terrific. Really highlights, I think, the strengths of the OCS system, without falling prey to some of the foibles of it, like the Russians, the Soviets being very difficult to play in some titles. Another thing that here's more Baltic GAAP. This is again the initial setup. So as the Soviets, your job is to drive back the Germans and reduce them to a pocket, the Courland pocket that actually persisted until the end of the war, with the remains of what was once Army Group North. Here's the stuff I am controlling. I think this is after one or two turns. We've kind of blown this southern flank open at this point in the game, or starting to blow it open anyway. Now it's thoroughly blown. We are on the sixth turn of the game, which we just finished today. This is Labatt de la Moskva. This is the big battle of Borodino. These guys are playing on a custom-printed map. This is a map that somebody had run off at something like 140%, so the counter management is a little easier. I mean, they're not... You can't really see it in this picture. These guys seem to be having fun. They're on about turn 5. These guys are pounding this thing till like 8 p.m. every night. Here is another little side game we have going on. Since there is some downtime associated with OCS is the software I'm using to record this video. I am a little tired, in case you couldn't tell. Running pretty much on adrenaline. This is Tannenberg, Eagles in the East. This is part of the Der Weltkrieg system from SPW, distributed by Decision Games. This is a nice little game. Very much illustrates the mechanics of the system, I think. You don't get to see trench warfare in this. We're easily going to finish this, probably tomorrow. This is, I would estimate, like a 2-hour game, and I've never played this before. The other guy has, but they've changed the rules since then. We're playing with the current Sterling edition of the rules for this. I like the game a lot. The hex-side terrain does take some getting used to. A lot of features of this system are somewhat unorthodox. The way the movement works is relatively unorthodox. There's the hex-side terrain, obviously. Otherwise, if you've played Unconditional Surrender, you'll be familiar with the idea that when you activate units, you have to pay supply for them. This works that way too, although you only have to pay for attacks. What else do we got? This is the Labatt reinforcement charts. This was on day 1. We, of course, just finished day 2. And very colorful and attractive reinforcement cards for this game. The game is generally very attractive, although I will say that there are definitely cases in which I find it hard to tell whose units are on what side. If you're playing the game, that's probably less of an issue. This is the playtest that we were mentioning earlier. This is a game called Gration Stopped. Probably mispronouncing that, but it's Gration or Gration Stopped. This is the end of Operation Gration, and this is a very early playtest. It's part of a new quad that's coming up with 4 new East Front battles. Designer is somebody we know, so Tony Burkett, who has got some OCS titles on the East Front as well in development with MMP. This is pretty rough, to be honest about it. Now we're in the midst of compiling playtest notes, bearing in mind that it is a super early playtest. It's pretty rough. It needs work, but we expect that. So we'll be able to deliver a report to the honchos, whoever that is at Decision Games at the end of the convention. This is something else that we have set up. We haven't gotten to this yet. This is Next War India Pakistan from GMT. This is the Kashmir scenario. We would like to just play the basic game, fart around with this after we finish with Der Weltkrieg. We will definitely get to this. The basic game is not hugely complicated. The advanced game is hugely complicated. So we're just going to fool with the basic game here. India-Pakistan is possibly the least attractive topic that this series has covered so far, but it is also probably the most approachable game because there's no naval and you have a relatively simple terrain mix. This is another shot of Tannenberg. This is after the first Russian movement. The Russians charged ahead with some cavalry, which did not fare well. We have had some attacks where we are. I think we're about halfway through the scenario on this. Here's another shot of that. Here is Saratoga from the Battles of the American Revolution tri-pack from GMT. This is a beautiful game. Very impressed with that package, which I have done nothing with it so far. Some guys have busted it out and they're playing it. What else do we got? That all the pictures I got. There's at least one or two other things. A couple guys were playing that new Watergate game from whoever that is. It seems somewhat superficially like Twilight Struggle, but not really. That's how it was explained to me, but from what I saw of it, it didn't seem, except in the broadest sense. So, for those who are not familiar, Buckeye Game Fest is held every year in Columbus, Ohio. It is a 4-day, Thursday through Sunday affair. However, there is a war room. You do have to pay a little bit extra, but that means that you can start on Monday. So we get a full 3 extra days of playing. And I feel like we're going to get pretty far along in the OCS game. I think this scenario, or the game, Baltic GAAP, as I recall, runs for about 3 months, 3 or 4 months. We're going to probably get to a decision point in the context of BGG. We're doing about 3 turns a day. So we play OCS every week, right? And typically, it depends on the game. So when we were playing Beyond the Rhine, for example, we'd play for 3 or 4 hours, and we would reliably get 1 full turn in. Sometimes a turn and a half, but more often 1 full turn in. Korea, obviously, we started that campaign from scratch. That's moving much faster. We're getting 3 or 4 turns in that same 3 or 4 hour period. In this case, we're playing for about 10 hours a day. Maybe 10 or 11 hours a day, and we're getting 3 full turns in. I think we can move a little bit faster. One of our guys is a little slower than the rest of everybody, but that's just something you deal with. I actually find that I am moving quite slowly in this particular game because the terrain is fairly complex, and it's super important because you need to know and understand the terrain and where the detrainable hexes are and all that to actually make an offensive work as the Soviets here. It would be very interesting to turn this around and try the Germans, maybe next year. That was the first 2 days of Buckeye Game Fest. We got a lot of stuff happening in the next couple of days. Wednesday, nothing particularly new is happening. There's a couple other people showing up. But we also have Thursday is when the huge flood of people starts to come in. We will have the show sponsors there. There are show sponsors, which I talked about in the previous video, one of whom makes that new I keep wanting to say Watergate game. I want to say Waterloo or Waterdeep or Waterwood or what. I'm a little frazzled here. So, thanks for watching. There will be more Buckeye Game Fest coverage coming. If nothing else, I'll do a wrap at the end. I would also like to do a wrap video for our OCS game. Really liking Baltic GAAP so far. It's playing very well. It's got a lot of interesting things going on, certainly as the Soviets, and where I am in becoming a sort of competent OCS player. It is a destination. It is a road, not a destination. This is being super instructive because I'm really understanding the intricacies. You need to have the supply system down for this, which is true of a lot of OCS games, but not all OCS games. Sicily, for example, Beyond the Rhine. And remember, we never used an extender in Beyond the Rhine because every hex is detrainable, and there's a detrainable hex every 4 or 5 hexes. It's just not a problem, and you don't have to convert the rail net. In this, you do. Much more interesting. Definitely also highlights that I think OCS is more interesting on the East Front, generally speaking, even though I own all West Front games. So, anyway, we'll talk more about that in the next video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share the video, and I will see you next time.